Hello, I'm Eileen McHugh with the BBC News. A court in Montana in the United States has ruled in favour of a group of 16 young people who accuse the state of violating their rights to a clean and healthful environment by promoting the use of fossil fuels. Wira Davis reports.
The case was reportedly the first of its kind in the United States. They argue that the state must do more to consider how emissions are contributing to droughts, wildfires and other growing environmental threats. In her ruling, the District Court Judge Kathy Seeley found that Montana's emissions were proven to be a substantial factor in adversely affecting the climate. She also ruled that laws limiting the ability of regulators to consider climate effects were unconstitutional because its citizens had a right under the Constitution to a clean and healthful environment. A spokesperson for the group that brought the case said it was a huge win for Montana, its youth and the climate.
The West African regional bloc ECOWAS says it's shocked to learn of attempts by the military junta in Niger to bring charges of high treason against the deposed President Mohamed Bazoum. ECOWAS called it a new form of provocation, which contradicted the military's reported willingness to find a peaceful solution. The bloc demanded his immediate release and reinstatement, sentiments echoed by the United Nations Secretary-General's spokesman Stéphane Dujarric.
It's obviously a very worrying declaration. We remain extremely concerned about the state of being, the health and safety of the president and his family. And again, we call for his immediate and unconditional release and his reinstatement as head of state, of course.
Lebanon has announced that it's freezing the bank accounts of the former governor of its central bank, Riyad Salami, and 4 of his associates. Our Middle East regional editor Yusuf Taha has the details.
Mr. Salami had occupied the post since 1993 till he left a fortnight ago. The statement names him, his brother Raja, his son Nadi, his former assistant Marianne Hoyik, as well as Anna Kosakova, with whom he has a daughter. The brothers and former assistant have all been charged in Lebanon with embezzlement and other financial crimes. Last week, Britain, the US and Canada imposed sanctions on Mr. Salami and 3 of his close associates, accusing them of diverting more than $300 million for personal gain. France had issued an arrest warrant for him in May, seeking explanations about his massive property portfolio across Europe. Mr. Salami denies wrongdoing.
Almost 50 people are now known to have died in landslides and floods in the Indian state of Himachal Pradesh. Several of them were killed when a temple collapsed in the capital Shimla. Emergency workers there fear that 30 to 40 more people are trapped in the rubble. Hundreds of roads have been closed and parts of the Kalka-Shimla railway have been washed away. You're listening to the latest world news from the BBC. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has been visiting troops near the front line in the eastern region of Donetsk. Photos and video footage show him holding talks with commanders and posing with soldiers for selfies. Mr. Zelensky said he was keen to understand the problems faced by each brigade as they fight the Russian invaders.
There's always an overall picture with reports on each direction and each brigade, but it's important to talk directly to the warriors about the war experience of those who are on the ground. Today we had detailed, frank conversations. We talked about our offensive, about supplies to the troops, about the capabilities of commanders, about what these capabilities are now and what they should be.
For the first time in the history of the United States, 3 branches of the armed forces are without a leader, confirmed by the Senate. Following the retirement of the Chief of Naval Operations, the US Navy, Army and Marine Corps are without confirmed leaders because a Republican senator continues to block military nominations over abortion rights. Argentina's financial authorities have devalued the peso by 20%, anticipating a backlash after the strong performance of the far-right candidate Javier Milei in Sunday's presidential primary election. Mr. Milei, a libertarian, has proposed dollarizing Argentina's battered inflation-riddled economy after years of difficulties. Annual inflation is currently at 115%. Thousands of protesters chanting anti-government slogans marched in the Bangladeshi capital Dhaka, hours after a prominent Islamist leader who was serving a life sentence died of a heart attack. Dalwar Hussein Saidi, the vice president of the opposition Jamaat-e-Islami party, was 83. He'd been sentenced to death in 2013 by a war crimes tribunal on 8 charges of murder, rape and persecution of Hindus. BBC News.